Welcome back to another episode of On a Mission. I'm your host, Dr. Wendy Norfleet with Norfleet Integrated Solutions, and it is my pleasure to have with me Joshua Woods with the CEM Foundation. Welcome, Joshua.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Joshua, tell me a little bit about the CEM Foundation.
Wow. A little bit can encompass a lot, I would say.
Okay. So let's start. Let me ask you a very specific question. So first of all, what is the CEM Foundation?
Yes. Well, the CEM Foundation, which stands for Champion, Equip, and Motivate, was established in 2021 by Chuck Miller, our founder, Charles E. Miller of Ardenex Logistics. Tapped me to be the executive director and to lead out the vision for the foundation, which really is centralized on three specific principles: sports, health, and education, and the way that those are integrated in between and within each other to build up marginalized communities, youth who can use sports as an avenue to build successful futures.
Okay. So first of all, it's an awesome foundation.
Thank you.
Okay. But how did you get involved in it? I know you said he tapped you, but how did you get involved in this organization?
Sure. Well, I say it all started at a car wash.
Okay.
I've worked in professional sports for nearly a decade, from the Jaguars to Washington Capitals in D.C., the Atlanta Braves, and more recently the PGA Tour.
Okay.
So after my stint with the PGA Tour, we had a little thing called the pandemic that put sports on pause for a while.
Right.
And I made a pivot and transitioned into the financial industry. And while I was there with a couple companies, Fidelity and Northwestern Mutual, I was out at the car wash one day 2 years ago. I happened to meet a gentleman, our founder, and we just had a general conversation about the weather. It was one of the few nice days that spring. As we know, our weather here can be a little tricky.
Yes, it can.
Especially during the spring. And so he made a comment that it smelled like spring training, of course, a baseball term. I said, it actually kind of does. And we started having a conversation about baseball, brought up the fact that I worked for the Atlanta Braves at one point. He mentioned it was his favorite team. And so he asked if I had any kids, and I do, 5 and 2, at the time, 3 and an infant. And he asked if I had my older son, Josiah, in any sports. I said, actually, he just did start T-ball. Asked if I had any photos or videos. I said, oh, yeah, I'm that dad.
Oh, you're right. You're that dad, right? Here's your wallet.
Started pulling it out. That's right. Flipping through, showing. He said, oh, man, that's he's got a nice little eye for the sport, and he's a lefty too, which is going to put him at an advantage. I said, yeah, but not for me teaching him how to write because we're righty. Well, long story short, that was about the end of the conversation. His truck was ready. He was ready to go, and I stopped him because, again, as I mentioned, I transitioned into the financial industry and had to make a quick elevator pitch. Hey, would you like to meet for lunch, talk about your portfolio, and see if there's anything that I could do to add value to you or anyone that you know? And if it does not end in an agreement for me and my company, then
Just
the
nice
worst we could talk about baseball the rest
Right.
of the time. So chat about Hank Aaron. And so he took me up on my offer. We met the next week, and that conversation slowly turned into hearing about his heart for the community and how he'd long sought after putting together a foundation, was really just looking for the right person to lead it. And he said when he spoke with me and looked into my background, saw some of the things that I'd done for the PGA Tour in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion, community affairs, this all in addition to my actual job. I was doing that on the side and helping out the company. He said, I saw something in you from the moment we met and got it verified through looking you up and checking with some sources, talking. I said, wow, you did all that. I said, yeah, and I wanted to not talk about finances, but talk about you possibly helping me start my foundation.
Wow.
So again, I say it all started at a car wash because it actually did. And together we've been building out this vision, partnering with a lot of other foundations because I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. There's so many great organizations here in town that are doing amazing work that we also believe in. So we've done a lot of projects together and been joining in, supporting where we can, see a need, meet it. And that's my story, sticking to it.
It's your story. It's a great story. First of all, so it's needed. I know, especially for a lot of the minority populations, sports is a way that they see to get out of. But unfortunately, we all know that everyone is not a professional sports player.
That's right.
So while it's great as a youth to be in sports, but you have to have something else to go along with it. And I like that you do the education and, you know, you do the health and all that, because it's all combined. It can't be one without the other.
Oh, absolutely. Sports is a vehicle, I say, and it can lead to so many amazing opportunities. I know in my own life, I was an athlete. I grew up here in Jacksonville, went to Ridgeview High School, graduated from UNF, swoop. And I know how powerful sports was for me, just in building relationships, building character. But again, it's a vehicle towards other things. It doesn't end there. And so a lot of the young men and women that we work with, we want them to see that and see that there's so many opportunities out there, whether you're a math nerd and you want to get into sports analytics or sports finance. You can still tailor your life to be sports adjacent, really.
Without being actually
being
in
the
the
athlete.
sports athlete, right?
That's right.
Wow. So what advice would you give to a young person, and I know I'm putting you on the spot,
That's okay.
and out there who, you know, sees sports and, you know, want to go after sports, and maybe, you know, they're good, but they're not pro, you know, and not
I
trying
fell
to
into that
dash their
category.
dream, but you want to still encourage them, but not, you know, put all their eggs in one basket.
Well, I'd be the perfect person for that, because I was a really good athlete. I knew I wasn't going to go pro. I'd say immerse yourself in other opportunities, in other avenues that are near the sport that you love, whether you have a passion for photography, or these days social media seems to be the new thing.
Right.
Find ways to integrate your own personal life and include sports, because I want to say to ever shun sports that for me, I always knew it would always be a part of my life. But I love to write. I got involved with the newspaper club at school, ended up being the editor-in-chief of my school newspaper, worked at the Spinnaker for UNF years later, got my degree in journalism and focused on sport journalism in particular, sports PR, communications. It led to a really fulfilling, 10-year stint within the sport industry. So I would say the same to them, whether it's, again, you love math, you love science, you love STEM. There's so many different things that weren't available even for me 20 years ago in high school.
So take that passion and align it to sports, but not necessarily, you don't have to be the pro athlete.
That's exactly right.
Okay, wow. Joshua, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your passion. You can hear it in your voice.
Thank you.
And thank you for all that you do for CEM Foundation.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and special thank you to my guest, Joshua Woods with the CEM Foundation. Please go to norfleetsolutions.com to catch this interview and many others about people making a difference. And we'll see you next time on Buzz TV.